Hello there. Can everyone stand up, please? You're like, oh man, this is the interactive part. I hate that. Can everyone please take 2 steps to their right? 1, 2. And 2 steps to your left. 1, 2. Okay, you can sit down. Thank you very much. I was told it's very important to always move your audience when you talk to them. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can get into it. So hi, my name's Dan. I'm from London. So excuse the accent. And if you can't understand me, then tough, because I can't do an American one. I've got really one very simple message for you today, and that message is that the thing that you fear holds the thing that you need. The thing that you fear holds the thing that you need. So, what do I mean by that? I think that fear is the longest relationship you're ever going to have in your life is the relationship you have with your fear. And I think that fear is one of the most powerful barriers to us achieving our potential. I think everyone has amazing potential. Everyone in this room, everyone in the world has an incredible potential, but we only ever scratch the surface of that potential. And I think one of the things that hold us back is our fear. Yeah, and how do we deal with that fear? We're not really taught how to engage with it. The rites of passage you just heard about, this is one of the big purposes of rite of passage, is learning how to engage with and deal with fear and negotiate fear. Because the thing you fear holds the thing that you need, so you can't run away from it. Right? So we have this potential, but we're often not taught, especially young people, are not taught to deal with their fear. Okay? In fact, in this day and age, we've got 2 responses to fear. We're either taught to avoid it, in the sort of cotton wool generation, like keep everyone safe, don't do this, don't jump there, don't climb that tree, don't cross the road. So we're taught to avoid it and protect ourselves and be over safe. Yeah? Or we're taught that kind of just the other side, which is suppress it, ignore it, blast through it. Yeah? Feel the fear and do it anyway. Kind of Nike slogan t-shirts. And those 2 are very opposite approaches, and neither of them is very effective. Because basically you're being told to either avoid the emotion or resist it. Yeah? And avoiding and resisting emotions, as we know, is not generally a good thing, and fear is just an emotion. So what we should be doing is having a healthy relationship with that emotion, actually negotiating with it, getting into a dialogue with it, and learning from it in that process. Because if you avoid it or you resist it, you're not really going to learn anything from it, right? So we have to go deeper into that. The reason I'm here on this stage is because of fear. Okay, the reason my company, what I do around the world, Parkour freerunning, is a movement practice, and it teaches us to engage with our space and navigate our environment and adapt to the world around us. And as soon as you start doing that, you encounter fear straight away. So right from day one, we're dealing with fear. And what set me on that path was a very specific fear. It was actually one jump. The first sort of jump I did when I was training in Japan, that was actually shot in Japan, but it wasn't that jump. But it was a similar jump. And it was the first thing I was exposed to in parkour, and I felt this fear immediately of, wow, there's a risk to this. I really have to do something. I have to negotiate with this to be able to achieve this task. Physically and technically, I think I can do it, but there's something in the way, something stopping me doing it. And I realized then I had the choice. I could either step away and walk away and not do it, yeah? Or I could probably just sort of, G myself up and summon up some adrenaline and throw myself at it and hope. And I kind of knew that neither of those were going to be sensible approaches. And I wanted what was on the other side of completing that jump. Yeah? So I realized there's a benefit there that outweighs the risk. I want to take the risk. But I need to find a way to negotiate it. Eventually I did. And I learned the most important lesson, which I've carried with me the whole time, my whole career doing parkour, is that you're only afraid of things that you know deep down you can do. Yeah, this is, for me, is really, really vital, because it helps understand that fear is actually a signpost and a guide to what you can do and what you can achieve, which is why you need to be in relationship with your fear and not avoid it and run away from it, right? And the reason I know that is because when I was looking at that jump, if it had been twice as long, and there's no way I could possibly make it, then I wouldn't have been afraid of it. Yeah, because there's no chance. I know deep down there's no chance I'm going to try it. So I wouldn't have felt any fear. It's just out of my reach. Yeah. So I only felt afraid because as I looked at it, partly I was thinking I could probably make that, and so part of my brain was thinking this idiot's going to make me jump. So I kind of knew I could do it. So I learned that you're only afraid of the things you actually are able to do or on the verge of being able to do. And that's become a key drive, a key directional thing in our parkour training, is that if you feel fear when you're looking at a movement or looking at a challenge, it's normally a sign you can probably do it. Yeah? Or you're probably near to being able to do it. Yeah? So don't run away from that fear, engage with it. So what is fear? I think there's kind of two aspects to fear. First of all, there's this raw emotion of fear, which is a protective thing. It's there to keep you alive. It's a self-protection mechanism, a survival mechanism. There's a lot of sense to have it, right? We need it, and it's guided our evolution and brought us here. So that's pretty useful. It's part of you. It makes who you are, and it's not a bad thing. And then there's fears, and fears are the stories you attach to that emotion. Yeah, the stories you create through experience, through trauma, through perception, whatever. Okay, but these are stories that you attach to the raw substance of fear that you will have within you, which is there as a self-protection mechanism. And those fears can get out of hand. Yeah, those fears really can get out of hand. There's only two fears that are actually innate, that you're born with. Does anyone know what they are? Who's never heard me talk before? Does anyone know what those fears are? Loud noises, yes, is number one. So a sudden loud noise makes you raise your hands in the startle reflex, and you protect your head. That's hardwired. You're born with that. You can't really get rid of it. What's the other one? Falling is the other one. Yeah. So loud noises and falling. Falling isn't the fear of heights, right? That's a different thing. But the fear of falling, that's the reason you do that weird kind of jerk whenever you go to bed at night, and you sort of have that moment where you sort of do that and half wake up and look around and hope that your partner didn't see you. And oh man, that's really stupid. The reason you do that is because your brain is kind of in a hypnopompic state. It's half asleep, and part of it is still awake, and it thinks, wait, all my muscles are relaxing, but I'm still awake, so I must be standing up, and that means I'm falling over. And it sends an electric sort of jolt through the nervous system to wake the muscles up, and that's why you do that sort of weird thing. So everyone's born with that. Fear of falling, the fear of loud noises. Every other fear is learned. Every other fear you acquire on your journey. People say fear of death. No, you can override that. That's not hardwired. Plenty of people do. Yeah. So every other fear is learned, and that means they can be unlearned. Yeah. They're stories you've acquired. They're not you. They're not your natural self. They're things you've acquired or been given. Normally, you've been given. Yeah. So the moral reflex is the fear of falling. And the way to prove it is if you take a baby, as soon as it's born, if you hold it up and drop it, it does this with its arms and legs. So it's aware of the falling, right? Don't do that. So the fears can get out of control. That's the problem. We become afraid of fear itself. Yeah. This is the real problem. You become afraid of fear. Have you ever sort of looked at something or sort of thought someone said, hey, let's go skydiving, and you'd be like, oh, no, I could never do that. I'd be too afraid. How do you know? Yeah, you haven't done it. So how do you know you'd be afraid? So now you're afraid of the concept of fear. That's stopping you doing those things. It's stopping you reach your potential. Yeah? I'm afraid to try. Yeah? You haven't even gone up in the plane and felt the fear. Then, yeah, maybe you're going to be afraid, and maybe you're going to have to manage that. That's fine. But being afraid of fear itself is kind of crazy. Yeah? This is where fear's got out of control. That's a graph. I always put a graph in my slideshows because my maths teacher at school told me that every good PowerPoint should have a graph in it. And if it doesn't, then it's not professional. It doesn't mean anything. You can ignore it. So how do we deal with fear? What's the process? And I like to end with this kind of simple process of sort of dealing with fear and learning to actually engage with it. Step number one is breathe. Whenever you feel afraid, breathe. Okay? There's vagus nerve breathing is a really good idea. And by that we mean dealing with the vagus nerve, which is the longest set of nerves in the body, links into all the organs. You can manipulate this through promoting a neurotransmitter in the body, and you can do that through breathing. Yeah? If you exhale for longer than you inhale, that signals the vagal nerve, and it promotes that neurotransmitter and actually calms you down. Yeah? So you can self-administer this, and it can actually calm you down. It will reduce the effects of fear. So first of all, breathe. Yeah? And you can do that, and it will work. It will change your state. Embrace the fear. So don't run away from it, what I was saying earlier. Yeah? You've got to change your perception of the feared event. Go towards the thing that afraids you. Go towards it. You may not deal with it. You may not manage it that day, but go towards it. Get familiar with it. Embrace it. Understand it. Understand there's no risk in feeling the fear. Yeah? Feeling the fear is not a risky thing. See the failure as feedback. Yeah? So we heard that a little bit earlier on, the growth mindset from Phil. Even if you don't deal with it, just see it as feedback. You're learning something by being familiar with the fear, by spending time with it. That's feedback. You're learning from it. Yeah? There's no such thing as failure. It's all just feedback, whether you succeed or fail. It's just feedback. recreate the feared event. So simulate the thing that you're afraid of as closely as you can, as often as you can. Familiarity removes fear. Yeah? So fear is normally just something you're afraid of, something that is the unknown. Yeah? Familiarity gets rid of it. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge yourself for feeling fear. It's not a bad thing. It's totally necessary. It's totally a good thing. Don't judge yourself for feeling the fear. Just experience it, listen to it, observe it. Build a positive cycle. By doing all this, you will build a positive cycle that helps you understand you can engage with fear without running away. There is no risk to you in engaging with that fear. Yeah? And by doing it, you get stronger at it. It's like a muscle. The mind is like a muscle. If you exercise it in a certain way, it will get stronger. If you stop exercising it in a certain way, if you avoid, then it will get weaker, the muscles will atrophy, and you'll become worse at dealing with that thing. So it's like a muscle. You have to train it. Yeah? This is something you must practice. And to practice it, you must go towards the fear. And enjoy the process. Okay? That's the last thing, is enjoy the process. Make sure that you understand you don't have to be afraid of dealing with that process. Yeah? The thing you fear does contain the thing you need. Yeah? That's why you're afraid of it. That's why I was afraid of that first jump. Yeah? Because I knew I could do it, and I knew there was something on the other side of it that I wanted. And I climbed up from that first jump, a different person from the guy that took off. Yeah? And my whole career came from that, everything. My company, my friends, being here talking to you now came from that moment of fear and not avoiding it and not suppressing it, but trying to understand it, trying to negotiate with it. So I think if we deal with this fear, if we create a healthy, positive relationship, that longest relationship of your life, you're much more likely to achieve your full potential. You're much more likely to do things like overcome the bystander effect in that moment when you're needed, yeah? Because you can deal with the fear that holds you back from dealing with it. And you're much more likely to actually be of use to the world around you. Yeah? So the thing you fear contains the thing you need. That's my message. Thank you very much.
The Hero Roundtables are the global events that ask the question, what is a hero? You've just seen one hero talk. To find more and join the conversation, visit our website or social media.